Welcome to the Bridges of Meaning European community. This conversation is between myself and Pieter, and this is probably the longest conversation that I had yet. And we talked about the age of decay and our personal experience in it. Then Pieter told us about his architecture dream, and then we talk about art in general. At the end, I gave my half theory about and the prediction about the state of Israel and Judaism as a whole. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and goodbye. Pieter, it's excellent to have a conversation with you. It's not the first time that we're meeting. I've met you 2 days ago with John Van Dank SGI that he done for the community. And I think maybe I had a conversation this morning with Felix, just like a private small conversation about the estuary, and I heard his ideas about it. And I'm curious to hear your idea. How was it? It was most of ours. It was the first time that we've done it, except Danny, right? Danny was the only one who done it before. I think so.
I have no idea. I don't know about
for you, it was the first time.
For me, it was the first time. Yes.
How was the experience? How was it?
Very positive, actually. I was, I didn't expect it to turn out as well as it did. I generally really enjoyed it. There was the typical issues with video meetings that I much prefer real life meetings. There's more hesitance of whether you can interrupt people, and it's a bit sketchy. And there were a few people who probably spoke less than other people. But I think the topics were very interesting and engaging. And I'm very glad I was there.
Yeah, are you a new member to the Bridges of Meaning community, or?
Yeah, not really a member, actually. I'm in the server, but I didn't really say much. More of a lurker.
Yeah, so you haven't participated in the voice chat that much?
Just a few times.
Because the voice chat has the same culture and tendency of this entering other person thought and what he's saying and diverting the conversation to other topic. So it's much more chaotic than in real time. Because the in real time, the thing that you can do is to talk over one another. So when somebody's saying really something that really interests and grab your attention, you can kind of detach for a half a minute from the group and continue between the two of you the conversation, or even if it's just with eyesight. That's what's interesting. Oh, right. So, and then you continue a word or two, and then you can join to the group. So it's basically, as I see a group dynamic in real life, it's like fracturing groups that combining to for split seconds and recombining to the overall group. And unfortunately, those small micro dynamics in group conversations is not existable in Discord, because I cannot relate to you. If you said something, it's really hard for me to relate just for you that what you said is really, really great. And so what you need is to address the speaker at that moment. So this
very interesting, because eye contact is extremely important for social dynamics. Eye contact, the thing that we can probably do best with our eyes is seeing where other people's eyes are pointing at. That's why we have white eyes. So the white and the pupils are more contrast, and that part of social dynamics is totally devoid in video conversations.
Yes.
Very interesting.
I'm actually thinking about it for the last half a year since I joined the Bridges of Meaning. We probably need some kind of integration of teleprompter which teleprompter is the machine that that people who work at media are doing. So they read from the screen, and then like speak to the camera. And if we could, it's not that difficult. It's just that a mirror that is 45 degrees, so you can, this is a mirror and here is not, so this is, here can a camera can see, and here it can be a screen or something like that, and then you just can look at your eyes and it will be synced for me, and I think it will bring much closer the conversation together. Although it's a gadget, it's like extra thing that you need to install. And I watched a video by a very, very good do-it-yourself person, doing an English one, who doing it stuff on YouTube, and he presenting very interesting small projects that you can do at home. And I took this idea from him. So it was like a collapsible screen, like not a collapsible I don't know, kind of plastic or something that you can put on the screen, and then after you finish it, take it off, fold it, and put it on some drawer.
Huh. And the purpose of that is that you can directly look into the
Yes.
camera instead of
Direct, and I think it will bring the conversation, even the rando conversation like we're doing right now, because rando is a short for random, and that Paul van der Key is using. So random conversation with random people. Like you and me, we don't know each other yet that well. So it's a random conversation that we're having. So we call them randos. And so those random conversation can bring us much closer to each other. And I think even to the online estuary, we can use it probably. What kind of settings do you see that the estuary can be implemented? Have you thought about it?
Yeah, I've thought a little bit about it, because we're discussing right now the limitations and possible solutions of video conversations. But I think we can all agree that real life physical meetings are preferable to video conversations. But that would limit the setting, I think. It would limit the setting to people who live close to you, or people who are able to travel great distances. So that would be one limitation, or limitation doesn't necessarily have to be bad for settings. So the setting could maybe be more of a regional thing on a more regular basis, and maybe once a year more global setting. Was it kind of what you meant by your question?
Yes and no, because I do just wanted to hear thoughts about the limitation of the estuary and so on. But I also wanted to hear thoughts about how we can implement, if it can be implemented, as Felix mentioned, maybe in like for doctor settings, or for a work environment. Although I don't know. Yeah, it could be weird if the HR is sending you to do an estuary at work.
Yeah, but would it still be an estuary if it was just limited to one department of one company?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably not. And another thing that I had a conversation with a friend of mine, that I'm trying to always to explain him what this bridges of meaning place is. And they told him that we done this experiment, the estuary, and I understood that estuary probably works really well when the personality type is openness, and all of us are really high in openness. Even the people who are extroverted among us and didn't say that much, introverted among us, didn't say that much in the conversation, but they still were interested.
That's immediately a question which popped up to me when you said it. What about introversion, extroversion? Is that an aspect that is it relevant? Do you think that introverts do they fit well with the estuary concept, or is there a way we can better engage introverts?
That's one of the problems that I think it's a problem. I do think the introvert extrovert in a group dynamic is a problem, and as Peterson liked to say, it's a much more deeper problem than we give it give it credit, because imagine that in every group dynamic you have the people who are not necessarily extroverted, because I'm personally not an extrovert, although
You're not?
yeah, that's weird. I'm a weird thing, because I'm really well social, like I got really good skills to be in groups with people,
Yeah,
but I
do.
get tired of people, and I prefer to be a lot of my own, to think about certain ideas. The problem is I'm a really bad writer, really bad one. I'm a dyslexic from early age, and it's really hard for me to write and think in writing. So I think with other people, and let's call it, use other people to think, and it's really hard for me not
I see. Yeah.
think without other people there. So basically I'm kind of saying a lot of words and seeing what sticks, and expressing myself, because if I do it on my own, I tried it even with the camera, I trailed off so many directions. And
Maybe you could buy one of those programmer ducks, the yellow bath ducks next to your screen. Are you familiar with that trick?
no, not at all.
Okay. Programmers, they can buy like the yellow bath ducks of rubber ducks, and while they're programming, they speak to that rubber duck, and because they're explaining what they're doing, they're explaining to another person how they're working. That really helps them to think and to organize their thoughts. Maybe that's something
Well, that's a really
you.
good trick. Yeah. The problem with that, especially if it's a free form, there's no limitation. So other person give me the limitation.
Oh yeah.
I know where we met. I know where you sit. I know your gender. I know your age group, like big age group, like old, young, child, let's call it. I know a lot of details about you that limit my perception of to whom I'm speaking. So I need to be in certain constraints about how to speak to you. And then that's why, like, getting rid of a lot of things with the duck is is more of a problem.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But it's a good trick, especially if you need to do the technical stuff, because in technical stuff you try to explain it to the objective. Although it's crap, I don't believe in objective, but you try to say, okay, so this is a duck, and how I'm going to explain this code and what I'm doing in a logic to the objective observer. It's different when you try to figure out, I don't know, different problems in your life. Because the way that I will present my love problems to a girl will be different than to a boy, and will be different than to an old man and to a young man. And to an old woman. So I because there is certain qualities, innate qualities in those people, that the way that I will explain to them my problems with my love life just will be different. And those kind of ideas. Yeah.
So what are your current outlets? What are your current forms in which you speak to other people? Obviously the estuary meeting, which you will attend in Landau, but I also think you mentioned that you work with youngsters in Israel to, I think, organize.
Not That's not exactly, because I'm since COVID, I'm kind of stuck at the place where I'm living right now. Before COVID, I moved back to my parents, and I took a lot of responsibility upon myself. And now I'm waiting until I finish those responsibilities here at my parents' house. So for a time, I'm here. What I've noticed during COVID, that a lot of my friends need to talk, especially people who not like myself, that right now I'm living in a forest, in a green space, and people who during COVID stuck in the city, it was much harder on them. So what I started a lot of just every single week conversation with them. And it's very similar to what we're doing, but we're just much more familiar with each other. So it's much more in depth, or sometimes we continue the thought that we started 3 months ago.
And were they video calls or physical meetings?
No video, just on the phone. Because
okay.
it's friends from Israel, so I just call them. And the other thing that I started with my nephew. I forgot how to say it. Studies, teachings, classes, a movie class once a week. So we watch a movie and then we'll analyze it in depth and try to explain it. And before COVID, I used to teach voluntarily kids to play chess, and that was nice.
So do you think that by teaching
I didn't have any experience until the Bridges of Meaning of doing anything with groups and people that I don't know. So that's actually was my first time that I done something and organized community. Go ahead.
And do you think that by teaching those children, that's also an outlet for you to organize your thoughts, or is that not applicable?
No, not at all. No, the only way is to speak with grown-ups and with. No, like my nephew is helping with movies and sometimes, but the thing is that the outlet to organize my thoughts with other people is not something that I don't need it all the time, like because it's the same as you writing for yourself something. You don't need to sit down every day for 2 hours and write. So it's kind of the same thing. Like a conversation once a week was enough for me for a few years. That's fine. And again, that you have family and your friends, but like my poor family, they listen to so much random ideas that come into my mind for them. But so okay. Let's go back, because I remember your original question, the introvert-extrovert question. The introvert or extrovert question is that I do think that group dynamics tend to be overrun by the extroverts. They're much more present. They stories. They know how to be dramatic. They know how to tell a story. They usually excited, and it draws your attention. Like one of the people in our group was Danny. Like it's immediately he grabbed the attention of everybody, like at least mine. And you always want afterward you remember from all the speakers, you remember what the enthusiastic people said. And unfortunately, sometimes the quiet people have very interesting points and way to look at the world, which is very valuable and is overlooked. And I think that in a natural group dynamics, it's a big problem. And so the SGRA, how it's doing, it's giving every single person a way to speak in his term, almost how much he wants, and it's in turns. And it's good that John divided these 2 hours into 2 segments, the segments with turns and the segments which is free flow, because it gives the people who are more introvert this space, because they feel maybe they too polite to interrupt something.
I think it's also it's a very beautiful responsibility for extroverts to be kind of the guardian of what's the word, make sure that everybody gets an equal turn. I think it's very beautiful responsibility that extroverts can take up to safeguard everybody's part of the conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because there's something misleading in enthusiasm. What do you mean by that? It's a good tool to draw attention, but as we know in the modern world, not everything that draws our attention is valuable.
Yeah. I see. Yeah.
So how you were going to do that? And
that's very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because,
so
go ahead. Sorry.
No. So that's what I said. That's why it's the Jordan Petersonian line about the Pareto distribution. This is also a problem, this attention problem of extroverts, and it's a really deep problem that we don't know how to solve.
I think there are two possible solutions. One is to keep group sizes small, because you have the Pareto distribution, but also another one. I think that it says that 50% of all work is done by the square root of the number of people. So that's even a bigger statement than the Pareto distribution, because this statement says that the larger the pool, the larger the polarization. So if you keep group size small, then the contrast between extroverts and introverts is it's limited. I think it's quite a basic solution. Another one, which is I'm not sure about, is the possibility of segregation. Groups can kind of self-select into, there you have some groups of more introvert people, there are some groups of more extrovert people. It would limit the contrast, but on the other hand, of course, it goes against the idea of estuary, where people join together. So I'm not sure about segregation. What do you think it could have its place, or if it's something that we should really strive to go against?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the fact that I'm so invested in the Bridges of Meaning community is that it's segregated and it's self-selected, let's call it. It's self-selecting the people with the open to experience trait. And that's it's so easy for me to talk with every single member of our community, because I guess I just can throw a topic to the air and yeah, sure, we can talk about it for half an hour. And it's easy. There's sometimes it's very, very hard. Then again, like for example, you will see in I don't know if you follow every single video that I'm releasing. No, I hope not. I hope not. No. But I had a conversation with a member of our community, Gilles. Yeah, Gilles. I spoke with him a few days ago. He's a very creative person, so he's open to experience creatively. But he's much more lenient to so we open to experience, but to more creative stuff, and less to the and also to the ideas. But it's very hard for him to form those ideas into into sentences and go with the sentence to the next to the next idea, to the next line. And I struggled so much in the conversation with him. It was really, it took a lot of patience to understood what he tried to convey. I got the idea what he tried to say, but it's not to diminish him, and not at all. The opposite. I think people like him as a great value, and he managed to see kind of elements really, really deeply and criticize them really, really deeply. It's just there is a certain personality types that sometimes they're not the personality, but people that the connection between of you are not as smooth and flowing. And mainly in Bridges of Meaning, for me, most of the people that I encountered was really, really smooth and flowing. So it's segregated community. And it gives me so much, the fact that I can just come here and speak with you about ideas, really big ideas, very problematic ideas.
It's a very good point that you make, that the community is already segregated. It is already self-selected from the entire pool of the Western world or society.
Yeah,
that's a very good point. Yeah.
Do we need to bridge that and make our own tools to be applicable for everybody? I don't think so. Like, I don't think SGRE is. It's not even for everybody. I think it's for very, very small types of people. I don't think it's that applicable to everybody.
But it is open for everybody.
It is, yeah. And in that case, in that sense, it's self sorting. It's saying, okay, so you can you sit there for 2 hours and listen to people ramble? Is it interesting to you? Because if not, after one thing like that, you just say, no, I don't need it. I prefer to go somewhere and carve something with wood. Great. Excellent. That's also valuable to us. So I do think that the estuary and maybe our community is something we're trying to form, some kind of outlet similar to the way that the Greek philosophers tried to the early Greek schools, that there was like, yeah, you have the agora, you have the garden, choose. If you go to the agora, you'll find people who's talking about Stoicism. If you go to the garden, you find the Epicurean, and they speaking mainly about thoughts of Epicurus. You can choose, but most of the people are in the middle, doing their life.
But Athens was so interesting. It was such. It was really. It wasn't even a city. It was a very small town. It's so crazy how many philosophers, artists, sculptors, playwrights, politicians, juridical geniuses they produced in such a small time. So there must have been something to the city state of Athens that's really gave a very fertile ground to so many people to become so extraordinary in their own domain. Do you think that Athens in some way, I don't think we can really connect that, we couldn't really call them an estuary, but in some way I think it would be valuable to study the example you just gave a bit further, because it was really an extraordinary place.
I think that time, that specific place is doing what we are doing right now. I don't care what your background, I don't care what your education. The fact that you are a person and human being who can pay attention and want to relay your thoughts to other people, you are welcome. And we welcome with open arms most of the people who have interest. as long as you behave nicely. So there is this element, and it's well, I heard this phrase used a lot, and I used it as well. The way how university should be. I don't think so exactly, because should is a very strong word. Because universities is also a place of holding knowledge, and maybe doing jobs that is very annoying, because to list all the 10 different ways that you disagree with Kant's idea of the sublime is excellent, but it's not that useful. So that's kind of but you need that. So you need the academics to do that. But for, let's call it, it's not that helpful to live your life. And in what you mentioned, the Greeks, what they more focused, they were those kind of types who were in this nitty gritty of exactly what do you mean by elements of the transcendent, or doesn't matter. I'm just inventing words now. but they try to teach themselves how to live properly, and that's the main teaching that we got from Socrates, like how to live your life properly so you can die in peace. And with combination with the Buddhist, and with combination with Jesus, there's this element that is not just on the thinking side, but also in like more of how to become a better person for the whole world kind of element. So that's
I'm thinking a bit more about what was so peculiar about the Greeks and that specific time and that place. I think part of it was also just very large pressure from the outside world. It was a very warlike time. I think Nietzsche said the Greeks, how much must the Greeks have suffered in order to produce such beautiful art, or something along those lines. So it's this idea that suffering or hardship is necessary in order to produce these beautiful works. And in a way, I think the times we live in, of course, they're not warlike for us. We don't have famines. We don't have real hardship in that sense. But in the meaning crisis sense, I think one of the positive things about the meaning crisis is it is a crisis, and from crises we can it's hardship, and hardship can, if you navigate through it, produce similar works of extraordinary beauty as were created in times of Athens.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, the pressure brings not pressure, limit creates creativity. When you limit something to a specific notion. So the example that I like to bring. So if you try to produce a sculpture in the tip of this graphite, so it's like they're really small, and there's artists who do that, though, making sculpture of this small piece. It's such a big constraint that you need to be so creative to understand, okay, so how do I do that? How even I approach this element? And etc. So that you use, okay, so how do I paint just with blobs, or how do I do those kind of sculpture?
Minecraft. Have you seen Minecraft art? I've been a very active Minecraft builder for a big part of my youth. So big blocks, but big beauty.
Yeah, Yeah,
I know what you mean.
and you can find those constraining elements in everywhere, in everything, and when there is applied to the culture, maybe as you said, to like some external forces, and maybe we're feeling those external forces right now with the meaning crisis. Maybe we entering a new phase. I think so. I think so because I see so many people from very different backgrounds and ideas want to meet each other and share those ideas and to hear what they have to say. So that's a start. I don't, and I just think the fact that we are in the bridges of meaning, the talkity type and talking with each other, but I'm sure next to us, the neighbor next to us, which don't have Discord, who is just has this community of producing art and sculpture right now that we just don't know yet about them. And in 30 years, they'll say, oh, this is the movement, the blah, blah movement that started in the COVID time. And then now it's all over the world. And we see this building and that cathedral, and this is inspired by that. And there's the movie that's inspired by this kind of art and thing. We just don't know about them. Maybe some of them are among us and listening, but I'm sure they're here.
Mm-hmm.
It just will take time until the broader community and us as well get to see that.
It sounds quite optimistic. I think it would be more optimistic than I would be.
Yeah. That's maybe my optimistic flair, but the pockets of human activity all over the world is so vast that we just cannot summarize it. But they are there, and people are creating, and people are figuring problems to themselves. It just takes a lot of time until somebody noticed that, write it to a book, pick a name to that movement, and present it to you in written form. It takes decades. So you can never see the now. You never see it, what now happening.
But I do think that there would be a minority, the group of sculptors or the group of innovating architects, and I think the majority will. Yeah, I do think it's the most realistic outcome that the majority will succumb to the meaning crisis.
What kind of
I don't know in what way or shape.
I'm not asking prediction. I'm not asking that. I'm not asking you to give prediction what's going to happen with the bridges of meaning. With the meaning crisis. Not that. I'm asking. What I'm asking. Try to repeat your last thought, and let's build on that.
Well, first I said that I would probably be a bit more pessimistic in that I think the communities, for example sculptors, that they will be a minority in the world, and I do think I think I actually said it's the most realistic outcome would be that the majority of the world will succumb in one way or another to the meaning crisis. And the next important question would be, what can our role be in maybe helping as many people get on board of the solution? But again, I am more pessimistic than you are.
No, I don't think that it's a question of pessimism or optimism. Pajot thinking that Christianity is dying and will resurrect anew in some kind of new way that probably will be foreign to our eyes. The technological world probably produced something, but then again, the concept of the collapsed civilization that is we are building anew is always there. The Library of Alexandria will burn again. Our knowledge that we have right now will be lost again. Most of it, to a soul flare, to time, to the decay of that we don't understand how to store them properly in the digital form, because we don't, like, some structures collapse. In 1,000 years, who knows what will be left? And that's fine. That's the story of human existence.
It's fine, but it's also a bit, it's of course obviously very, very grim. So do you think that we as a Bridges of Meaning at festival, do we have a role in
I don't think it's grim.
limiting the effects?
I don't think it's grim.
It's grim. Okay, why not? Why not?
I think this is how human existence is. If you look upon the bigger cultures, then you said, oh, it's such a bad thing that the collapse of, I don't know, Egyptian culture, and we don't have like those people who producing art with hieroglyphs and those kind of things. Yeah, but when we look on the Egyptian, we look on it in the scholar eye. Like you read about them in a summary of a book and culture and symbols that you brought from them, and it presented to you nicely in some documentary that you watched as a kid, and it's grabbed your imagination. That's not day-to-day life. The day-to-day life and the beauty that surrounds you, even in a gray place like New York, it's, yes, you can make this surrounding better, but there is so many meaning that you can live a really good life just by trying to be a better person, trying to help the people around you, accept the suffering that eventually will come to your way, and
okay, what you're describing right now, I think that's exactly what I was trying to feel out, like the role that we as a group can play to somewhat limit the grim effects. I think that's actually the answer.
It's not a grim, but it's not grim.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. The fact that this video will dissolve in time and will be not like, let's say disappear. Let's say that some huge cultural achievement that we managed to do in the 20th century will disappear. That's fine as well, because the meaning is not in this piece of art. The meaning is the relationship of a specific people between themselves. I don't need that many people in my life to have meaning. I need 10 good people that I have connection with, and as long as 10 people will exist in the world, they can find meaning. And that's what I'm saying, that this line of history that you can place yourself and different cultures along the history, and we're thinking, okay, so it's accumulation of knowledge, and oh, it's so bad that from time to time we'll lose a certain knowledge. That's not human life. It's just a line of our certain projection all what I'm saying right now, I took from the series of Burn Powers about time that's going to be in the lecture in Landau, and will give us a lecture about time and reality, because he is arguing that we need to the way that we in modernity see time as a measuring device, as a ticking clock, is wrong. Time is it's not something that flows and it's something that happens between you and the objects around you and the people around you, because time flows completely different when you with a person and a loved one, and it's completely different when somebody is torturing you. Those two, for your experience, it's very, very different kind of time, and the flow of time completely different. And yeah, sure, you can stand with the clock and measure the amount of time that you got tortured and the amount of time you've been with a lover. And I'll say, okay, so here you spend 10 minutes and here you spend 10 minutes as well. They're the same. Of course they're not. They're not the same. It's not the same time. And those two experiences of time will affect your life completely in a different manner.
Like I don't want to focus too much on this slight disagreement,
sorry.
But one other thing is there is also a very real element to the line of civilizations going up or down. Like, the real element does also include people committing suicides at a very high rate, and like the four horsemen, three of the four horsemen are famine, pestilence,
War.
and war. Yeah. Those are very real elements of
Sure.
kind of
Sure.
civilization. Yeah.
Sure.
That's why I'm.
And they are here, and they will come again. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They will come again and destroy human civilization again. And what will be left is the poem, Shelley's poem, that nothing will stand except like those big foot of some big statue that existed, and a plaque beneath it. My name is on the Ozymandias, here upon thee and despair, and there's nothing except the desert. And that's the idea of it. It will happen again. It will be here. But this is not Peter's life.
This conversation, you mean?
No, this destruction of this civilization that will come is not Peter's life. The experience that some people experienced during the fall of the Third Reich is not their experience. They didn't experience the fall of the Third Reich. They had their own life and their own dealing with bad things and the good things that happened to them. They didn't lived through the fall of the Third Reich. They lived through their own experience in the specific time, in the specific situations.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I want to make clear that I don't think I'm pessimistic. Actually, I think I'm quite optimistic, because I think we can really take some measures to maybe not save the fall, but at least for smaller local communities to stand up and not succumb. So I don't think I'm pessimistic. I'm actually quite optimistic. So just to be sure.
Yeah. No, Whew, yeah, I need to cool down a little bit about my rant about time
I like
and
rants.
the fact that time doesn't exist. Let's bring down to earth, because I also
All right.
can go really really high in the clouds, and it's sometimes it's good to find where your legs stand on.
Yeah, I see.
Uh,
Yeah.
what do you want from the meeting in Landau? What is your best, most optimistical outcome?
To make friends, friends who the most optimistic outcome would be friends that live close by, which I can really meet on a regular basis,
Mhm.
and perhaps even to start some projects together in near future
Like
or
what?
long term. Um,
What are your
yeah,
wish, dreams?
I already had a conversation with Aaron, and he's a stone carver. Um, my ideal, my really optimistic future vision is to build very beautiful houses, good strong houses, not houses made from cardboard walls, but
Or
houses with real
plaster, or like this white horrible stuff that I'm sitting in.
like houses
Yeah,
that are
yeah,
still there in 400, 500 years because they're just so good, so beautiful,
yeah.
so well built. Um, that will be my ideal future.
Do you have some connection with architecture and building and, well,
Yeah, yeah,
please expand.
yeah. I have been studying architecture for 2 years. I'm not studying at the moment,
Hmm.
and I also have I have a job as a teacher for a certain certificate, and the certificate is required for construction workers.
Hmm.
It's a certificate that you are familiar with safety rules.
Hmm.
You have to wear a helmet and those kind of
Yeah,
things. So that's why I know a lot of people who work in construction, so I
yeah.
have a large network.
So what? Okay, but please tell me more. Let's go a little bit more to this physical stuff of architecture.
Mhm.
Uh, and yeah, I that's one of the things that I love the most about Aaron. Like, really, you just left this idea,
Yeah, it's so cool.
this learning about societies, and instead, like, you went to stonemasonry. It's the best. And
It is.
and I just love it. And what do you think? And because probably you thought about it. What is a good architecture for community? And what is a good structure? What is a good, like, building? If you need to sell to one of the members bridges of meaning an idea of a house, what it will be?
I think it has to be very grounded. It shouldn't be something that an architect who hasn't been in the region, except visited by the car, and who made some plans on his computer, and then a separate company that does the engineering calculations, etc.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like in the Renaissance, architects like Palladio, they started out as stonemasons in the region, and they gradually they climbed up the ranks and just made plans. Um, should be really grounded, so it shouldn't be a tall building with more than 4 floors. Mm, Also, the materials should be grounded, should be
Mm-hmm.
more local materials,
Part of the
nothing
environment.
synthetic.
So it's like the
Yeah,
living space need to blend into like build, yeah,
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 complement the environment. Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also very important, I think, is like in in the modern world, we have this. I think most people have the idea, unfortunately, that the world would be better without cities, without buildings, without roads. Like the most ideal, perfect, beautiful world would be a world just without people, only trees, nature, and wild animals. Um, I think that that's a result of ugly architecture and
Mm-hmm.
industrial world. I think the most beautiful world wouldn't be without people. The most beautiful world would be with people, with beautiful homes, which are really blended the environment.
Have
So
you
I think
heard
that's the
about
goal of architecture.
have you heard about this project in Seoul? I think that the song, the Gam yeah, Gam Style, the song Gam Style is about
Yeah.
this region, and that they it's like a small test. They took all the roads and they moved them underground, so all the rest of the up ground is just a park between buildings, and there's no all the facilities is kind of underground, so the garbage disposal, people coming to the house is always underground, and the buildings themselves and the environment, it's like just look like a park with some beautiful buildings was implemented in those. I watched the paintings of sorry, the photos of it. It looks nice. I don't know if we can convert cities to something like that. It sounds really far away. It sounds to me that cities is kind of a natural building, forming places. They cows that almost on the edge of collapsing, and they're just growing and growing and growing.
Well, not in the US. The US they're not natural at all. They're just blocks
Yeah,
plop down on a on
but
a
still,
on a
it's like
computer.
this. They're so crumbling. They're barely holding on, and
Yeah, and so dependent on facilities of the modern world.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I do think that especially during the Enlightenment era, there was a movement to create those orderly societies that people can live in. So this is what we have with the French movement and French architecture, and that's supposed to be nice to the to the spirit. The problem is that you can do it in a very limited element, and also Walt Disney and this Disneyland project is also kind of grew up from creating an ideal space for people to be with each other and to integrate the community together. There's just something that maybe not missing, but it's maybe not scalable, or maybe it
Yeah,
never
it's
existed.
utopia.
Yeah,
It's utopic. Yeah.
and I
I'm not sure
think
if I'm really against it.
I think
But
Jonathan
I don't know.
Pajot have the same sometimes like mind of this middle age, middle age village and like this church in the middle and small community around it. I also think it's utopian. There's I don't think
I wouldn't have any idea on how to fix the modern world for everybody.
yeah,
It's sad, but I wouldn't know a way to. I can think of ways to fix life for small communities,
yeah,
communes, but I wouldn't know how to save an entire city of a few million people.
yeah,
No idea.
yeah. That's
It's very
there.
sad.
It's very, I don't know if it's sad, but
Oh yeah, of course. It's not grim.
it's not grim. No, it's just how the beast presented itself. That's all. Um,
That's all.
that's all. So that's really good. So one of your wishes from the meeting of Landau is to start kind of projects that connected to, let's call it, passion of yours of building
Yeah,
an
more of
architecture.
fantasy.
Mm.
I don't think it's realistic just yet. In a few years, perhaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
most of our communities is from young people, and what tend to happen with young people, they get old and they grow rich. And with that comes the ability to afford to do project and build bigger and bigger projects. So I definitely see that something will some interesting projects will come from our community, just by the fact that a lot of our members will get old and will have capital to start some things, which is a good thing.
Yeah. And the other reason, the original reason, is because Burn Powers is coming, and yeah, I think I've watched everything from his channel, The Anadromist. Not so much from the other two channels, or other three channels. Yeah, I'd really like to meet him and to speak him, and I think I'm
Let's go.
I'm gonna prank him.
Let's geek out about Bird Powers. I know
Sure, let's do that. Yeah.
He will hate the fact that I said that. I know it, but I I was aching to speak about somebody about Bird Powers in depth, because since I learned about he's coming to the event, and I said I don't know about this guy, so I started to look at his YouTube, and I watched not everything, but I'm probably 70% there. I watched the big series. We rewatched a few times the Ruchmacher lectures.
Yeah.
So they're really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. And he's such a coincidence about Rookmaker. I was at a very local lecture from my neighbor. He's part of a study association, and he invited me to a lecture of his study association. And halfway through, I learned that the speaker was the organizer of Labrie, the Dutch Labrie. I didn't know that beforehand. And he's very familiar with Rookmaker, of course, because he's a Dutch professor. And
he's the founder
of Rookmaker. Yeah, of course.
He's the founder of Dutch Labrie.
Yeah. And because of Rookmaker, actually, he did a video about Dutch philosophers, Doijweert, for example. But he also mentioned Groen van Prinsterer. He was a Dutch politician and historian. Does the name ring a bell?
Not at all.
I think he mentioned it in one of his lectures on, not sure in which context. Anyway, another coincidence. My grandfather is a historian, and he actually did his dissertation, I think the word is, like the final
dissertation
writing about Groen van Prinsterer, and he had the book which Rookmaker mentioned in his lecture, in which I was really felt drawn to reading. It's the history of the Netherlands, written in the same style as the Bible book Kings, I think, Kings Chronicles. So it really describes the rise and fall of the Dutch Republic, not just by economic factors, but much more so by the morality. Like this time, we followed God, we were moral, we did these good things, and then it went well.
And now we sinned.
And then we sinned, and now we are attacked by France, England, and Sweden at the same time, and we almost fell. But then God was merciful and he actually did save us in the end. Yeah.
It's
great perspective.
Yeah. It's always interesting to take a country and try to put on it like this biblical lens and see how the people sinned in front of God and see the rise and fall. I also do it quite a lot with the Russian people.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Russian. I was born in Russia, so for me, I'm much more interested in that roots than in my Israeli ones. So one of the advices of Ruchmacher was how to go to a museum. And I tried to do that 2 weeks ago. I went to the Jerusalem National Museum, and his advice is to go to all the rooms really, really fast. After that, you go to a quiet place. You try to imagine what comes to your attention. and then you choose one room, you go to this room, you do it again with the paintings, then you sit again, you imagine, and when you choose one painting, you go in front of it and just sit there for an hour in front of one painting. And I've done that. My painting was Magritte Castle in the Pyrenees. It's like Magritte is kind of a surrealist, but it's a big rock atop of floating rock atop of the sea, and on top of it there's a small castle. Yeah, you can Google it right now. So I just said in front of it for Magritte.
Magritte.
Yep.
Magri.
Not spelling. I'm not the spelling person. Don't ask me about it. I have no idea how to spell. I can barely spell my name.
And what's the name of the painting?
Castle in the Pyrenees.
Castle in the Pyrenees.
Yes.
I have such a short name, Teddy.
Exactly.
So you can spell it. Smart.
Yeah, it was Theodore, but I didn't know how to spell it, so I just shortened it to Teddy.
It's a floating rock.
Yeah, it's a floating rock with a castle, with a small castle. So I'm just awesome. I'm not. The painting is not important. Everybody who's listening to it, don't run away and look at the painting, although it's a beautiful one. And I'm just to be familiar with Magritte in general is a good thing. He has some really amazing art, but the just the practice of looking at a bunch of stuff and then letting your attention to decide, you get rid of a lot of noise. A lot of unnecessary noise, because what you want is to form a relationship with one painting and a close, deep relationship. And I think that's a good advice, especially to our modern digital age, because we're bombarded with so many stimuli, and you don't need it all. You don't need all the videos on YouTube. You don't need all this content, like this world even content. You just need few videos, and you can rewatch them actually, and they will speak to you much more deeply. So I introduce now the concept of how to see a museum from what your attention can go over the videos of Burn Powers. What the one that, or the few that grab hold of you, and you want to revisit their topic?
I've watched, I think, all Rookmaker lectures 3 times at least. One which I recently listened to with my cousin was I think it's called "Do Our Temptations Define Us?" or "Do Our Desires Define Us?" It's partly about homosexuality and coveting. Have you seen it?
I didn't watch it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. Yeah, it's more of a cultural critique. It's more applicable to our time and day. But it really gave me a great perspective in identity politics, and I can try to summarize it. The title's really good. The title kind of summarizes it. He questions the notion that what you desire, your temptations. For example, if you desire, if you're tempted by homosexuality or other kinds of fluid stuff these days, that is seen as a part of your identity, whereas before 150 years ago, like it's not that you were homosexual. It's more like you were acting in a homosexual manner. You did this homosexual thing, but it's not that you are homosexual. by doing
it's
that.
not that your soul is a homosexual.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the fact that you participate in certain activities that you can describe them as homosexual.
But by making part of your identity, that really like it ingrains it in your being, and doing that is probably quite dangerous and leads you to wrong conclusions. Let's see if there are other things about it.
No, let's skip. It's in let's stay here. It's in the same sense as he tried to describe. I think it was in the body dysmorphia video. I don't remember the title of it, but the fact that is that we are created. So people from the old time, there were the phrase that we are created in the image of God. So you are godly. And when we disperse with God and we killed God, then what happened? Then we don't have the image of, we are created by the image of what? Whatever we want, whatever comes to your mind and your desire. And then you start to find and define by yourself, as maybe Nietzsche tried to say that we should do that and create kind of a own morality. And in this sense, we also created our own ideals that we try to strive for. And very, very quickly, it's just went crazy. Not crazy, let's not call it crazy, but it went really, really far with people who are seeing themselves in the image of a cat or a lizard or kind of different.
I've seen all the trend, by the way. Young children, they find it, I think it's wolves. He was just growling as a wolf all the time with his little ears, and their parents, the father faking his smile. It's terrible. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and those poor souls, how Byrne called them, and that's one thing that I really like about Byrne, that he sees in every single person that produces art as a soul that crying out loud. And he trying to understand through the art that this soul is producing what this soul is crying about. And that's one of the most healthy perspective that Byrne brought to me personally, because I came from this Russian tradition that, oh, there's high art and low art. And I'm all about high art, and those low arts is for the common people, like it's for stupid people. I'm not that interested in them. And Byrne actually helped me to say, no, like it's not just the things that you like. It's there's souls that do going to these punk rock concerts, and they're trying to say something, but you're just trying to find words how to say it, and maybe it's not even words, maybe it just screams. And it gave me a lot of compassion for many people who are doing really bizarre, to my mind, to my eyes, art.
So do you, bit of a loaded question maybe, but do you think that all art is equal? Like, is there no difference between high art and
that's
have you totally
really
abandoned that concept?
really loaded questions, and I have arguments with my nephew. He's 13, and he's like arguing to me like, no, Disney's movies is the best. Like, and I'm to try to convince him, no, they're not. You don't have taste. Yeah, that's what it means. So, yeah, I don't think so. No, I think some art is facing to the world, and some art is diverted, they face from the world. And those arts who are faced to the world, if you adopt them, they will help your society to live a little bit longer than others. So it's kind of a Darwinistic argument. The arts that your culture adopts or takes upon themselves that are faced to the world, so with it means your culture will continue to live longer. And so those kind of arts, so for example, in the Orthodox tradition, there is a prayer for the Holy Mother, the Holy Theotokos. So the mother who is carrying inside her this new baby that will regenerate the world. So they and especially the Orthodox, they have the Holy Mother as a symbol much more prevalent. That kind of a symbol is towards to have new babies, have new people that will be part of this world and like bring something new. That can bring destruction as well, but still. And I think it's much more healthier image to have instead of people who are not deciding to have children and the art that connected to it, because after 2 generations, that kind of art just disappears. The one that who won't say to you, oh, children is a good thing. So the art that's saying children is a good thing will continue, and the art who is not saying that will disappear.
Yeah,
so
I think art is just crying, or complaining, but very heavily, without also having some form of hope, faith, or love. It needs to have one of those 3 things: hope, faith, and love, in order to be valuable, I think. Or do you think I'm wrong, or?
No. I do think you're right. I just don't know about those categories, because at the beginning of the video I said how I don't like categories, so I'm still giving.
Oh, those are the 3. I think those the 3 Christian virtues.
Yeah.
This by Paul.
Yeah.
But they're not. I didn't strictly mean those 3, but something
I
with hope.
I don't know if I'm agree or not. I'm not. Okay. Thinking of that. I'm sorry right now, but I'm just looking really farther, and I think there's some arts maybe it will take them 1,000 years to disappear, or 2,000 years to disappear, compared to others who can continue to propagate through 10,000 years. And I don't know if we are living in a art, or let's call it Christian art, is the most developed and well art out of all of them. I don't know. That's kind of a weird idea. I hope so. And as Jonathan Pajot is saying, I believe that Christianity is correct compared to all the others.
Actually, I don't know yet, but can I ask you, are you a Christian, or is there a yes or no answer to that?
Yes, there is an answer to that, and I'll tell it briefly. Yes, I am a Christian. I consider myself a Christian. I'm a new Christian because I grew up in a secular Russian family, and through Pajot, I started to understood. Okay, so maybe I am, because most of the symbolism that surrounds me is Christian symbol. I grew up in a house with a lot of Christian symbolism. So I just, when Pajot asked the question, look at the symbolism that you grew up in and you understand who you are. I've done that. And I understand, okay, so I'm a Christian who is living in Israel. And then I decided to make more concrete steps to actually do some kind of like steps towards praying, steps towards going to church and to become a proper Christian. I'm still much too secular, but it's a step, it's a process. So that's my kind of a connection.
You know that you are the superior race, right? Jews are superior.
I'm not a Jew.
We're
That's the problem. I'm not a Jew.
you're not a Jew,
No.
but like also not your heritage, your race.
Yeah. Okay. So what happening with the Russian is so when the Soviet Union collapsed, the state of Israel allow a lot of people who were persecuted by the Nuremberg Accords to come to Israel, which means that if one of your grandfather is Jewish, you can come. So I have a grandfather who is Jewish. Jews consider other people Jews only if you are the son of a mother who is Jewish. Only 100%. So in that sense, not me, not my mother, not my father. My father is not at all Jewish. Not at all. There is no even a drop. My mother only from her father's side. So it means like, okay, so I'm technically by the Jews' laws, I'm not Jewish, but still the Israeli government consider me a Jewish person.
Okay.
So there's like a lot of different conflict with that. I was baptized back in Russia to the Orthodox Church.
Oh, really? And that's very interesting. And your
if you're
mother?
interested more about my story, go. I'm going to release a video today with Kato, with the team, and at the end of it, I just went for half an hour explaining all of it. So I just want to I don't want to be boring to continue the same stories, but basically, yes, there is weirdness in that and in those elements of how the Jews consider somebody is Jewish, how what you consider yourself. And also the Jewish religion in general is really weird about that. There is no kind of separation between being a Jew and believing God. Like, you're a Jew, fine, excellent. Like, I don't care if you don't believe in God or you do. You're a Jew, and if you don't believe in God, that's okay. Like, you're struggling, but it's not this. It doesn't mean that God automatically not exist. It's like they don't exist in your life because you don't believe in Him. And Jews has those two differentiation. When we say that somebody is returning to the faith, we say that he coming with an answer. And when somebody is becoming secular, we're saying, oh, he's coming with a question. In Hebrew, we use it in Hebrew. So like, he's returning with a question. Yeah, he started to go to the synagogue. Right. So he's returning with an answer. Sorry, yeah. And if you're returning with a question, yeah, he's like partying in gay bars in Tel Aviv. So he's like completely done with religion. He's like questioning all this thing.
But I was going to say, well, partly for you, that like it's very important for everybody to become Christian, but especially, I think it's very tragic that the Jewish people largely don't accept Christ, because Jews are really the superior race according to the Bible. Well, and the superior in certain parts, they're the chosen people, and Jesus does accept the view that like the Gentiles, we're like the dogs eating the crumbs from the bread, and the Jews, they're actually the children. Are you familiar with the Bible verse about that?
I heard it a lot, but I never read it myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, basically, there was a non-Jewish woman who wanted to be healed by Jesus, but she wasn't Jewish. So initially, Jesus wouldn't do it. But then she says that even the dogs can eat the crumbs from the dining table that fall on the floor. So I'm sure that I, as a Gentile, as a non-Jew, can still accept, like, even the crumbs from you, Jesus, are enough for me. That's basically what she says, and then she is healed. So I think it's very tragic that especially the Jews don't yet largely accept Christ. I think it's very awesome that you do.
Yeah, but I'm not Jewish.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Still, I'm not Jewish either.
There's it's interesting questions, and because I'm so ignorant about the scriptures and a lot of the conversation about theology, it's very hard for me to comment about that and bring something intelligible. I can help some people maybe understand more the Jewish tradition, and especially how it unfolded itself in Israel, because I'm from here. But to enter, to have opinions, should the Jews be Christians or not? Because I do remember that Paul wrote, like not Paul von Decay, but Paul from the Bible wrote that there's like those categories is not existed anymore because everybody is under God. So I just don't know how to address them. I just don't know how to reconcile them. But those are interesting ideas.
Well, of course I think that Christ is for everybody, but I don't think that it's. I couldn't say it's more tragic that the Jews don't accept it, but it's very tragic, just like it's very tragic for everybody who's not yet converted.
There is one big
Maybe
problem with Judaism that I said to other members as well, but I'll say that again. My biggest problem, and I think that's a problem that probably will destroy Israel, is the fact that Jews in their mythology, and there's the completely two Judaism. There's the Judaism before the destruction of the temple, and there's the Judaism after. And the Judaism after is called the rabbinic, like rabbinic Judaism. So it's not the same kind of religion and that existed before the destruction of the temple. And I think that rabbinic Judaism is not a governing religion. They don't know how to govern other people who are not Jews. They don't have the mythology of governing other people, forcing them under your will, paying taxes, like doing the stuff of sovereigns. And one of the elements that exist in Islam and Christianity, that they have that. They have those kind of integration and mythology. It's not perfect, but at least they know how to do that.
You mean like the Pope and bishops and the church structure?
Sure, okay. but not just that. They know how to take taxes from people and force it. And what do you do with people who are not part of your religion that lives among you? And there's precedent, a big precedent in Christianity and in Islam of how you do that. It's written in those texts. It's not the same thing with Judaism. So when
so you think that the current situation of Israel, they're maybe unprepared because they are now sovereign?
Yes.
Kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, okay. And my main thesis that I repeat from time to time to different people who are asking me, that I think 70 years ago, and I spoke with Jacob, who is a very prominent person in our community, and it was his idea. I just took it and run away with it, that there were a schism in Judaism 70 years ago. And the schism is, as Jacob said, the original Jews, who is living in the United States right now, and there are Jews who are living in Israel. And the Jews who are living in Israel, in order to survive, they need to know how to use force to force people to live under them. And that's what you see the problems with the Palestinians who are living under the Jews, and the Russians who coming, like we have 1 million Russians in Israel, million out of 10. 1 million, like it's more than the blacks in the United States. We have comparatively, because there's 9% blacks in the United States. We have 11% Russians in Israel. Even more probably. That's a lot. And most of them are secular people from the Soviet Union. Some of them have those religious connotations, but most of them, like myself.
So do you have like your own communities within Israel, your own identity?
Yeah, you have like places you can live in Israel knowing just Russian, and you don't need Hebrew. My father speaks Hebrew really bad, like he almost don't speak Hebrew. You just don't need it.
Wow.
And so what the Jews going to do about those kind of people? What they're going to do about the Christian Arabs who live here? Like, you need to find ways in your scripture, in your religion, how to force those people to be part of you. And the Jews don't have well-established ways of accepting Gentiles into their own ranks. Then saying, oh, we can do, if you choose, you can study and become a Jew. No, you need also the force. You need to bring them by force, which unfortunately we have in Christianity, and unfortunately we much more aggressively we have in Islam. But there's two components which is really, really important. And as I said, I think and if the Jews in Israel don't find it, they will just dissolve among the people who surrounded them, which is mostly Arabs and Islams. So what they need to do, they need to find the sword. They find the sword that govern the governing sword, the sword that is governing other nations, other people under them, through the scriptures, through the faith. And in order to find the sword, they need to be aggressive. And in order to be aggressive, maybe they need to destroy Al-Aqsa and build the third temple.
Al-Aqsa, what? Sorry?
Al-Aqsa. Al-Aqsa is the temple, the Arab temple on where the temple stood.
The Golden Dome.
Yeah, the Golden Dome.
All right, yeah.
So maybe, and that's just the fantasy that I'm having and the thing that I'm having. Maybe in order, like the boy in the story, the King Arthur, to take the sword out of the stone, maybe what the Jews in Israel should do is destroy Al-Aqsa and build the third temple.
I don't think that.
But
I don't think aggression is the thing that's lacking from the Israeli government, is it?
Not Israeli. That's the thing. It's not Israeli government. It's the Jews who govern through Israel. That's the weirdness, because we see it as Christians. We see it, okay, there's the religion and there's the country. And there's like the secular and the nation. Those two separations between the nation and the religion, as Tom Holland wrote in his book Dominion, is a Christian idea. It's not existent in Judaism and not existent in Islam. And the people in Israel who pretended that Israel as a concept exists by itself is people who are much more closer to Christianity. And they're saying like, oh, we are Chilonim, we are secular people in Israel. No, it just means you are you're a little bit closer to Christianity than to Judaism. But in Judaism, it's not existent. It's not there. So you cannot divide even the two of them, the two elements. The same as Muslims have a big problem with secularism in general, because in Islam you don't have the separation between the state and Islam. So like they have the weird governments like we have in Iran or other countries. We look at them and see something really like, oh, they're just doing our stuff wrong. And
what if I would suggest that you have too much of a sword? Am I not getting your point at all, or?
No, you're not getting my point at all.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No,
I didn't totally get the separation between the Jewish leaders and the nation. I didn't really get the distinction either.
Yeah. So my
What do you know about that?
no, that's fine. It's a complicated idea. So secularity and religion is secularity, the meaning that you can be not believe in God and still live under a moral guidance of a certain tradition. That's what Europe mostly have. That's what a lot of secular people have.
Okay, but I was under the impression that the government was not secular. I thought the government was religious as well.
Wait. The moment you say secular, you're saying Christianity. So that's my point. The moment you utter the words secular, you mean Christian. You mean Christian body of relating to the world is as a Christian morality. When you're saying the UN, when it's looking upon the world and different countries and looking at Africa and saying, oh, your treatment of women is wrong, it's implying Christian morality on the African country. But if you come to the UN and ask why you are implementing Christian morality on African countries, they're saying, no, it's not Christian. It's all universal. And there's no such thing, a universal morality. There's morality is connected to this symbolism and to this the tradition that it grew up from. And Tom Holland, which is a historian from UK who wrote the book Dominion, he showed how the idea of secularism grew up from the Christian tradition. So
I don't think it's Christian at all. I mean, it's more of the Antichrist
sure.
manifesting. It's like feeding on Christian ideas, but actually being a very big
sure, but you cannot sure, I agree with that, but still you cannot say say secularism if you're not taking Christianity and twisting it and implying on yourself. And what you're saying to me right now, wait, so the Jews don't have secularism, or like why the Jews leaders who are secular don't like use force? And what you're saying basically in how I lay the argument right now is you're saying to me Christian Jews who is governing Israel. I'm like, what are you saying even? It's incompatible two ideas. Either they can be Christian or they can be Jews, and the mix of them will make them much more Christian than not. So when I see and when I look at political map of Israel, you have the left and the right. The left will pull toward secularism, gay rights, economic ideas that helping to the poor.
The Tel Aviv people.
Yeah. So like this is the left, the traditional left in Israel. Most of them won't believe in God, will be secular, will be those kinds of things. The right is like the opposite, like people
Did
who
you
are
just say secular?
yeah, yes,
Why?
like
I'm very
because
confused now.
if you come to people who are to the left and you ask, okay, what should we do with the buses and the public transportation in Sabbath? They will say, what do you mean? Like you need to go to the beach and to have fun with kids and to visit relatives. No, like transportation in Sabbath should be applied to everybody. It need to be open. When you go to the right or to the right spectrum of the political sphere in Israel, they'll say, no driving in Shabbat, because it's a holy day. So what is the left or the secular left are? They're much more Christian than Jews in that sense. It's I'm sorry. We've been here for half an hour with this argument.
We're gonna talk about burn powers.
Yeah, we started with burn powers.
I'm getting a little bit.
No, that's fine. You can ask me this question again in the future. And my first of all, I'm still working at this story. I don't know if it's even correct. Probably not. I tested with few people, and most of them said to me, "No, you are wrong." But I'm still holding to this story together somehow. Maybe this is a farce. What I'm saying right now, but that's my I don't know, pessimism about the future of the country of Israel. And then the how it connects it to Judaism and secularism and all in general. But then again, maybe I'm seeing something wrong, and I'm bitter about my immigrant life here in Israel.
Do you really feel like an immigrant still?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think most people didn't live in this nation 70 years ago, so in that sense, isn't everybody an immigrant? Most people.
Yeah. Yes, but the immigrant story is not. And do you feel? It's very weird because there is a certain acceptance that happening in your soul to a specific place and country. And when you don't accept this place as your home, you live with this element of immigrant. And unfortunately, in my personal life story, my father is rejected the country and decided not to live in it. And well, he's still living in it, but he said like, oh no, I'm not playing that game. I'm not trying to be part of this. I'm a Russian and leave me alone. Yeah. And he kind of stuck in the past. To say my mother is much more embrace the culture and embrace everything, so she's much more adaptable, as usually happens. Women are much more adaptable to new cultures, men less, and that's exactly what happened in my family. My sister got married into to somebody who is local and not to a Russian, and my nephews don't speak Russian at all, which really hurts my parents. Then again, a lot of the art and the culture that we that is closer to us is a Russian culture and Russian art. It doesn't mean that my Hebrew is much better than all my other languages. I'm really fluent in Hebrew much more than in English or in Russian. But Russian is my weakest, probably, out of all the three languages that I speak. I can barely read in Russian. but still those forces are there, and it's really hard to figure out. And I see a lot of my peers and my friends, they experience the same problems, the same like
Your Russian friends.
yes, my Russian
Yeah.
uneasiness with Israel.
I see.
And it's not an uneasiness because of Israel. It's an uneasiness of an immigrant.
Yeah.
And even though and one of the best examples that I can give from cinema about it is the Godfather movie. The movie from the 70s. Yeah. Okay. So the Godfather movie is about the mafia. And you see this young person, Michael Corleone, who trying to be part of this nation. He wants to be like a president of the United States. And his past, his culture is dragging him back. So he also got possessed by this this story, this mythos of an immigrant. So
that's funny. I it's a large part of me that wants to immigrate to a more rural country further away from modernity. The Netherlands are very progressive, modern. Some ways we're really like the canary, I think, of modern concepts. A lot of modern concepts were first tried in the Netherlands, or a bit like California. We've always been like this. Like from the 1500s, most modern democracy was first really applied in the Republic. The stock exchange was the first one was in Amsterdam. So large part of me wants to immigrate to more rural country. But I don't think it's
rural
possible.
country in the Netherlands or
no, far away. Like I know somewhere in Russia maybe, or Georgia perhaps.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I don't think it's really possible to become naturalized there.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way for me. I think I really have to stick to my home country.
No, you can immigrate and live a complacent life, like a good life as an immigrant. It just
It's just that you still are an immigrant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You take this burden. You accept this burden.
But it's also a burden for me to stay in Holland. It's also a burden.
Yeah.
But it's also a burden that I think I should take on to not like give up on my ancestry.
Exactly. So it's a difficult choice in modern time to choose. The fact that we can, in snap of our fingers, can choose to move to somewhere.
That's the digital nomad illusion from Burnt Flowers.
You don't understand the implication of it on your life, and each soul decides for its own.
Yeah, that's the comment of Burnt Flowers about so-called digital nomads. There's actually no such thing.
There's no such thing.
And also that, like his comment on leftists who are concerned about the environment, but they live in skyscrapers in some other metropolis far away from where their ancestors are from, and ordering vegan food in plastic wrapping. Like you really have to be grounded to.
There is a certain utopian vision when you think about immigration. And I seen around me that there's many Russians who came to Israel, experienced it, and said no, and left to Germany, left to United States. Most of them left to Canada. So I have a few friends who are living in Canada, just because the argument is always the same, like, oh, it's so hard to make money in Israel, and so like respectful and everybody and nobody has manners, something like that. Which is just okay, sure.
Canada,
So
see total opposite. A lot of manners in Canada. So
yeah, exactly.
I get it.
But fine, and a lot of them immigrated, and some of them are accepted that, but you have like the downfall, the negative stuff. Your children won't have grandparents. Your children will speak in a language that is foreign to you and will always be foreign to you, because the stories that you heard as a child when your parents read you a book before bed, they will learn different ones. Or even though that you force on them your culture and you persist that will learn your language, then you kind of doom them to be an outsiders. Like you give them the burden of an immigrant, as my parents gave on me. I'm not blaming my parents with that. It's not a blame. It's just something that happened. People make choices, and sometimes no matter what you do, like the collapse of the Soviet Union was a horrible thing, and people who stay there experience horribleness, and people who are left, sure, their stomach is much more fuller and the possibilities is much greater, but you still suffering from other elements, and the disease, not disease, but the mythos of an immigrant is also loaded with suffering.
Yeah, I think it's could also be an argument different with mass immigration of Africa and Middle East into Europe. I think it's also large part driven by the illusion of free money, and whereas in reality there's like dentists from Syria who come here and they're like a top society in Syria. Then they move here and they're at the bottom. They can't become a dentist, but they become I don't know, they work in some factory.
And it will take 3 generations until they become judge.
Yeah.
And it takes patience from them and from the people who are living next to them in the country that they came.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It's hard on anybody. But immigration is part of the human experience. It's always been like that. If we dream about Rome and Greece, there were immigration of that kind there as well. The sophists, who were the sophists? The sophists were immigrants who coming from different countries and just
really.
Yeah. They're mostly people not from Athens that came in. There were teachers from abroad who Athens was quite rich, who came to Athens and taught a lot of those new ideas over there, and there was like agitation about them. But also like, there's new stuffs that coming from different countries. And not just that, like you had the problem of Rome and its immigration, and it's part of the human experience as well.
Yeah, that was the thing at the end of the Roman Empire. Massive population movements.
Yeah,
the Goths, the Germans moving west and then and south.
Yeah. Pieter, I think we should start to end this.
Yeah, perfect timing, because in a few minutes, 10 minutes, I was also going to speak with Aaron. We already spoke earlier. But
I don't understand how we have the strength, but I wish you luck because
thank you.
I'm personally exhausted. It's my longest conversation yet, and you took a lot of me right now.
A few weeks ago, I had a conversation with another friend from another server. And we also walked around in the Minecraft server in the meantime to ease our attention a little bit. I think we started speaking at 9 o'clock and we were finished at 3:30 at night.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, 6.5 hours. Yeah.
I can do that as well, but it's much easier when you mobile. You're not just
Yeah.
sitting with like artificial lights. Yeah, there's certain limits. I think 2.5 hours is probably my limit to a computer conversation. So I try to finish it a little bit early before I become cranky.
All right. Well, I'm very excited to meet you in Landau.
Peter, it was a blast. Just a few things to finish. Probably, I don't know why, how or who going to do that, but probably we're going to continue with the SGRE protocol by ourselves without John. My wish is to do it weekly. I probably won't be able to be this week, but I spoken with Matthias and we like figuring out who's going to host it or if it's going to happen on a yes or no. So we're still on debate on that. But yeah, that's something that probably can happen. And
Cool. This
yeah.
week I'm unfortunately next week I'm on vacation on the week, so then I won't have a computer with me. But after that I'm available.
Peter, it's not an obligation. I'm just saying it.
I would like to.
I'm just saying it. It's something that we found really useful, and I do feel how our community is more and more getting closer. At least the people who are coming to Landau are getting more closer, and I think it's great and to do those kind of activities, just to facilitate those connections. So I wanted to announce it. So that's the thing.
Oh, thanks.
Peter, it was a blast.
Thank you for organizing these meetings, and again, very excited to meet you in Landau.
Yes,
in a
yes,
few
me
weeks.
as well.
Right.
Okay. Bye, Peter.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.